I really don't understand this obsession with trying to recreate reality. I like that it was always an exchange of me trying to direct in a way that I was trying to have a bit of control, but even in that way, you never know what's gonna be the output. As artists, I think it's really important that we actually build new futures based on machines of care rather than machines of despair, because what we are gonna create today could be the future of tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Gestatten Sie. My name is Ulrich Eid and today I'm speaking with new media artist and AI director fia Braga. Sophia explores how AI can become a true creative collaborator and how she uses technology to expand her artistic vision. Her films have been showcased and awarded at multiple international film festivals. She's held exhibitions around the world and regularly gives lectures and talks about the future of AI and her approach to it. In the episode, we discuss what it means to be an AI director, how human and machines can co-create stories, and why human agency must remain at the heart of every narrative. Before we get started, a big thank you to the Landesinnung Wien der Berufsfotografie for supporting this episode, and now enjoy my conversation with Sophia. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, hello.
So nice to have you here and
Thank
talk
you for
about
having me.
your kind of world of creativity.
Thank you.
Super interesting. When Belinda recommended me to get in touch with you, she said there's a AI artist, AI director, and kind of just artist. And I was like, what is an AI director or directress in your case? What is it?
So, I tend to call myself like AI film director because I started like when AI movies were not really a thing. Now there are so many proprietary tools and it's a bit more accessible, let's say. In 2021, there was not much out there. So I started experiment with different tools and Style Gun, VQ Gun, and then in 2022 starting with exploring diffusion models. And people back then, like few artists were already creating very, very short videos, more like experimental, poetic, let's say. But I really wanted to push the technology further and see, okay, can we actually make a movie with AI? And realizing then that to create a movie was just not about prompting, which hopefully people know what it means, but it's like, it's not just about writing a text and giving these inputs to the machine, but it's also, there are many different settings, there are workflows that you can create. And so I like to underline the word director because I want people to understand that it's there is lots of human inputs when you work with these tools and it's not magic, let's say.
So how do you compare your work with kind of a role of a just movie director? Is it kind of the similar, or where are the similarities and where are the differences for you?
I think the differences is that I'm also working with people, like with not so many, of course, it's not a big team, but most of the time you try to direct somehow the machine. So it's about like creating workflows, adding some settings that you would like to control within the video. So for instance, if I want to create a movement of the camera, most of the time right now people that use proprietary tools, they would just prompt and so maybe ask for that specific movement like a tilt or something else. In my case, it was more about really controlling the angles like of the axis. So move the axis Z to this angle or this. So there was really like more of a bit more control maybe. And that's why maybe I started thinking, okay, this is more like you really need to give direction, which of course also with prompting you give directions. I'm not saying that that's not a thing. But in the end, it's more most of the time you are alone with the computer. That's the reality. And maybe when you are like a movie director, you are with a bigger team, crew. You have to direct people. I feel like in my case, that might be more challenging. I'm used, like, I'm a new media artist. I'm used to work with my computer. I'm not a loner, but like I collaborate with small groups of people, and most of the time my main collaborator is the machine.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think everyone kind of has their own approach to creative work. So yeah, that totally makes sense. How did you get into AI work, especially? I mean, it's not the first thing that comes to mind, especially in 2021, when the whole kind of the AI boom kind of was just in its kind of infant steps, especially movies or like moving images wasn't so common then. It didn't work that well yet. So what brought you there? You come from an art background. So what was the transition kind of like?
So I was already into this media art field. I was exploring mostly, like, I like to play around with new technologies, but I mean also to disrupt them. I'm just like to use and misuse things, and that's why also, like, maybe my curiosity in, okay, can we make a movie with this, when people back then were just generating images, still images. And I was my artistic practice back then was more focusing on this, also like the problematics related to centralized social media platforms. So I was studying and researching a lot of like data extractivism. So AI models in the end are made in this way, and somehow, since my practice was already very critical in that direction related to data, then somehow it felt kind of I don't know, kind of, okay, this is the consequences, like these data are also used for this. How can we use this in a creative way and also a bit more ethical way? So that's why I started working with open source tools that we were building our own custom workflows that we were running locally in our machines. And I think it was most like also like a ethical explorations on how can we use these tools in less exploitative ways and actually in more creative ways. Somehow.
How is it less exploitative or kind of more ethical to work in AI than with just regular kind of creative, artistic kind of work?
I mean, no, that absolutely is not less exploitative than working. It's just the way you do it. So, for instance, when you work with open source tools that they have like a open data set, it's still problematic, but a bit less than having proprietary tools that they have their data sets that are not even open. You don't know where they scrape this data and so on. And in terms ecologically speaking, that's also always problematic, even if you run it in your own machines and it's not through like a billion companies, data centers and so on. But yeah, these are like, I feel like I'm also like very aware of these problematics, but my curiosity about the technology and also my curiosity in how can we change this as people, why this has to be the narrative, why can't we create our own counter narrative? This is stronger than anything else, and that's why I want to keep doing this, because I think that if we just say, okay, then we don't use it and we stop it here, then we just give the power to the people that wants to use it for other purposes that are not ethical. So that was.
What do you think AI allowed you to do, especially in the beginning, that kind of like drew you in? What did it allow you to kind of create artistically that maybe different kind of, I don't know, technologies didn't allow you to tell or create?
I found very interesting the outputs, even in the very beginning when you didn't had at all super realistic imaginaries, which for me was never the main goal. I think for me, the most interesting thing is that I didn't have full control. Like, I liked that it was always an exchange of me trying, because as I told you before, trying to direct in a way that I was trying to have a bit of control. But even in that way, you never know what's going to be the output. And that was, for me, the most interesting part. And I also understand that when you direct like a movie with people, of course, you never have full control in the sense, because there are more people involved and they put their somehow creative outputs. And this is also what I liked about the exchange with AI and the machine, to have the machinic vision, let's say, sometimes.
How important is it for you to have control of what you're creating? Because a lot of things when working with AI, I feel like are just coincidences. I mean, your kind of topic is as well the human, non-human collaboration. So is it something that you kind of see as a collaboration, that you put in some kind of ideas and then it's just a collaboration with the technology to create something new? Or what is your viewpoint on this kind of having control over what's put out and what you're trying to create and what the AI kind of forces on you?
I think it's a 50-50. I mean, even before working with AI, I worked a lot with appropriation. So in art, there are many artists that in the past appropriate of things to create something new. Like we can talk about Dadaism, and also more recently, like there is Eva and Franco Mattes that are pioneers in net art and also like already dealing with this topic. So for me, that was already like a sort of collaborations with people. And at the same time, even when you appropriate of something, that tells a lot about you. If the audience is actually attentive and they know, like they can they can get who you are and what you like and so on. And what I like with working with AI is that that's also a lot of appropriation, was talking about data and so on, that you somehow manipulate in a way that it's like it's not anymore that specific data, but you know that it comes from that. And at the same time, I like you never have 100% like the result you think in your mind, and most of the time even the result that you didn't expect can be more interesting and say, okay, I never thought about that. So for me, I think my whole artistic practice was always an exchange between me, other people, users, in this case AI. I also worked a lot with augmented reality before that, and there is no project without people when you work with augmented. I was working with like face filters, so no people, no project. And so for me, it's always like an exchange, and the collaboration is very important. And I think, no, maybe it's not even 50-50. Maybe it's really like control, like me 40% control and the machine 60%. I think it's even more interesting.
Really?
Yeah, even though, I mean, that's so crazy, because I'm always like also like trying to create my own workflows to have more control, but in the end I'm not really so much into control. That's the thing. I just like, I think I like just the process of playing around and see the changes, but then I leave lots of space for machinic vision.
What's your creative process then? I mean, I expect you have an idea that you kind of want to work with, but this idea can't be that kind of focused, not that kind of final, that you're not open to having the input from the AI. If you say you want to have 40% control and have 60% the interpretation or kind of inputs from the machine. So where does that idea kind of develop over time in you, and kind of what's your kind of relationship to the idea as well, that you allow it to transform that much as well? What's your kind of creative process look like?
So normally I start with a concept, so I have a clear idea. Most of the time when I work with AI, it's about like a speculative, I call it fabulations, in a near future collaboration. Again, the topic is always collaborations between human and non-human. And non-humans. And normally I start with a concept, and then I have a vision also aesthetically on how I would like this to be. And I really do lots of experimentations, but really a lot. So like my process is never very short, because people imagine like, oh yeah, you prompt something and then you have a video. No, it's a lot of trials. Like it can take months also to, especially when you work with open source tool, also to create your own workflows and see actually what you can do. So lots of the time goes into research. And then when I find something that aesthetically I'm somehow happy about, and I say somehow because it's really difficult that you are 100% happy about.
Sure.
Even though the last movie I worked on, I was really happy. It kind of worked out very well. But yeah, once I found that, then I keep pushing on that, and I keep working on that directions with that workflow, so with that kind of specific way of prompting and so on. And then of course you have many different iterations that are never 100% what you want. Then I work on it, like editing. Of course, post-production is the same like a normal movie, like editing and so on. But yeah, in the end, I feel like maybe sometimes I don't have a storyboard, for instance. Maybe you have a scene, there's like, okay, I would like a scene where I have this and this and this happening. Maybe I try some generations and that thing doesn't happen, and I get to something else like, this is actually more interesting than what I was imagining. So I let the old idea die, and I go on with the new one.
So the idea can develop throughout the process, and the outcome can be something totally different from where you started at.
Yeah. So like normally, like even when I start working on the workflow, normally I don't have a super specific idea. As I told you, no storyboard, no anything. Like I just go, I have a concept, and let's start with this first imaginary I have in my mind, and then looking like with this exchange, I see where we go, and then I follow that direction.
How broad is the first idea you're starting with? Because it sounds like it's kind of very broad.
It's very
kind
broad.
of like focusing down over throughout the whole kind of creative process to where it kind of ends up at.
Yeah, it's very broad. Like at the beginning, the first movie I was working on with AI, I had this idea of recreating this sort of future scenario which I was inspired from this Nova scene theory from scientist and ecologist James Lovelock that sees with these collaborations between human and non-humans, like in this case machines, as the only way to safeguard somehow planet Earth from possible extinction somehow for organic life. And then starting from just this book I read and this theory, starting from that, I start building an entire scenario, which it was, of course, it's never like the full story. It's a specific scenario. In this case, we go through like a human reprogramming training, which is where there are these machines that are trying somehow to take care of people in these months before organic life is going to be extinct. So I imagine this post-scarcity society where human labor is not required anymore. But you don't get that when you watch the movie. When you watch the movie, you see this human reprogramming training. You see voices and you don't know where they come from. You see these liminal spaces. And this is because I also want to leave the audience to create their own stories. So I give the basis, but then you can take whatever from there, which I think that's the most important thing when you work as an artist, especially if you want to push people imagining different scenarios, which are not for the futures, which are not a prediction of the future, but it's a speculation and it's something that you build from scratch. So sometimes my main goal is just like to we have an idea of what is going to happen in a few years. But this doesn't have to happen. This happened because we have these predictions, because somebody is controlling the narrative. But we have to learn to make our own narratives and counter narratives and start like having more like imaginations, being more creative when we imagine the future. That's the only way we are going to somehow change things that we are unhappy about.
Do you think AI allows you to imagine something out of the kind of realistic realm and think further than traditional media would have let you to kind of explore?
I think I think that all media like can give this possibility. I think in this sense, AI is just like a not even new tool, but it's like a tool that you can use. I like to call it collaborator because I have this exchange, but it's also a tool and you can use it for creations of speculative ideas and so on. But how painting it, was it photography, video, or anything else? So I don't see it as something that can give something more compared to other medium. I see it as a medium, yeah.
Okay. How much of your creative process is just technical, kind of trying to understand how you're going to kind of do this with your workflow, kind of trying to figure out the prompts, the kind of just the technical part of the project, and how much is just the visual telling of the story?
I think, unfortunately, lately, I feel like it's more technical than anything else, which is also...
More technical now than it has been the last couple of years?
No. Before it was more technical. Now it's a bit less technical, especially because I'm also sometimes working with proprietary tools for images and videos. So it's definitely less technical, but it's still like very technical compared to maybe other creative processes. And sometimes it can get a bit frustrating for an artist, but in my case, working with new media in the new media art field, somehow I'm used to that, and I'm also like collaborating with people. In the first movie, I collaborated with Onur Olgac. He's a system architect. We built workflows together, so that was also taking lots of technical parts that I was supposed to do away from me, so that I could focus more on the creative part. But it's lots of technical.
I can imagine.
But it's fun. I mean, in the end, it's also, and I mean, as I said, like, especially in the beginning, it was all about exploration and also, like, for instance, how to make the interpolations between the frames to have an animation. There was not tools back then to do that, and we found it out in a research paper. So we had to try to implement this from a research paper. So in the end, it's technical, but it's also very experimental. So it feels creative in a way. So.
That sounds interesting. What else do you think has changed throughout the years from back when you started in 2021 to now?
So I think there are now many proprietary tools that people can use, and it's way easier. You have way less control. You need to be better at prompting, because it's all about prompting with these tools. And I feel now it's just more accessible, because before, for a person that didn't had technical knowledge, but also didn't had like a computer that could allow, like, computational power that would allow that to them to actually generate these videos, they wouldn't be able to do anything at that level. And now you can be just a person subscribing to whatever tool and trying out. Most of the time, also, like, tell my students, most of the time at the beginning you're gonna fail, because you still, even just by prompting, you need to give a direction. This is not magical. You will never get fantastic things at the just first. I mean, sometimes it can happen, but it's like, like, you can get whatever you want at the first trial, but then playing around with it, getting more comfortable with the tool, like any other tool we know and we use in the end.
What is your goal visually when you look at your work? They're not necessarily super realistic. They're kind of those abstract kind of, I don't know, worlds. I would say some are more realistic, some are totally just imaginative. So where do you see yourself as an artistic artist telling your stories and your movies?
I think that's also the interesting part, that I feel like, especially in the beginning, I had a vision of recreating spaces. I was always very interested in the liminal spaces, also like this internet trend of the back rooms. I wanted to recreate some sort of spaces like this, but I didn't have I didn't want to force a vision of like, this needs to be super realistic. Also because back then there were the limitations that you couldn't have anything realistic. And I feel like sometimes because of limitations, you get the best outputs, because you really do something that you wouldn't think or imagine before. And so from the first movie that was a bit looking more like almost like animation, and it had a totally different vibe and feeling like also more... it's difficult to describe it without showing, but like, it was just different. And then from the new one that I wanted to give more of a feeling of almost like CGI looking. So most of the time people watching the second movie, they don't realize that it's actually AI. They think it's CGI. And that was also interesting for me. So in the first one, it really had this AI generated feeling aesthetic that I really liked. But in this new one, I was like, let's play around in a way that people can't really tell. I mean, if you are a specialist, of course, you can see it, but otherwise not. And then you live a bit in this, okay, is this CGI? Is this not? And you start making people question. But there is not really like I don't want to stick to a specific visual. For me, every time is a trial, it's something different, and I just want to experiment with new things.
So you don't feel like you have kind of a style as a directress that kind of like goes throughout a couple or more projects and people know that's kind of your visual language?
I feel like the style, you see it because of the scenario in which the movies are setting. Like, it's not like it's also visual, actually. Yes, you're right. There are like these liminal spaces. Also the way, for instance, the camera movements, like I tend to have this like really fast camera movements, and that it almost looks like that the camera is rotating all the time, because I want to give this idea of being somehow lost in the space where you can't find an exit. So there is also this claustrophobic feelings. So I feel like it's a lot maybe at the way the camera moves, this space, these closed spaces. That's for sure. Yeah.
How easy is it nowadays to kind of get multiple kind of scenarios that really fit together, because I feel like that's been a problem for a long time, that especially with people, kind of like they don't look the same in every shot anymore. And also scenarios, kind of like rooms, stuff like that. Is that getting easier, or how do you deal with that part?
I think in general it's getting easier to have this consistency. Somehow this is also something that I never cared so much about consistency. That's also the thing. But it's also in the end, like when you look at the movie, like it looks very consistent, even though it's like not specifically, even there are many cuts and so on. I think in general it's easier. I'm just like not specifically focusing on that. But I know that like people working more with portraits or images, for instance, they care a lot about like this having consistent, of course, like a character needs to be that throughout the movie. I mean, does it really? Like not in art, but maybe if in other fields, yes. Yeah, so it's...
Why do you don't want to be in that realistic kind of realm of movies and be more of the abstract? Or is that something you would actually want to do more of the realistic and more natural looking kind of movies?
No, I don't think I'm interested in that. I mean, the last one, it's quite, I mean, yeah, to me it looks more like CGI, but it's quite realistic, even though it's not really trying to be photorealistic, let's say. I'm just not interested in that kind of, like, I like also, you know, the mistake, like in the last movie, there are some, you can see some sentences, like there are phrases and then some sentences, like the wording is changing. And I like that. I like that you see that it's not a real shot. Like I really don't understand this obsession with trying to recreate reality as it is. Because if I want to see what I already have, I just, you know, look at it and I want to create something different. So for me, it's not interested in that.
Do you feel like people or humans can relate to AI-generated movies the same as they could to just regular, like normally produced movies? Or was kind of like just the relationship between the viewer and the artwork in AI movies compared to regular movies?
So I think it's so it's a lot about the medium. Let's imagine like when CGI started in the beginning, like people were a bit skeptical. They were like, oh my God, we're going to make all movies like this. No, and then CGI became like a style, a specific animation style for movies and so on. And when you go watch a CGI movie rather than a normal movie, it's different. Like animation is different for movie. So I feel like this is just going to be a new style. I think it's interesting. It's going to be interesting for especially animation, experimentation. And of course, it's going to be implemented it is already implemented in movies for like effects and so on. And I think it's good that they are using it for it. But I really don't think that it's going to take over. It's going to be used like mostly like for, visual effects. There's going to be hopefully like just categories for AI movies and so on. Like it happened with 3D CGI and so on. But yeah, maybe it's going to be useful, especially for directors to create their storyboard and, you know, show your ideas. And like, I would like to do this. So you don't have, you know, like it's less time and money consuming for sure. So I think this is also something that's probably already happening. But yeah, storyboard, probably not an interesting art result. But
You've had your movies premiere at movie festivals as well, though. So they're kind of like in the same realm of traditional movies as well. How do you feel like people are kind of reacting to that being under the same room and being showcased the same way? Do people get offended by that, or are they more open and interested in that?
That changed a lot throughout the years. So the first movie I made debuted in film festival in 2023, and there were not AI movies in film festival. So actually, even the curators of the film festival, they were really interested. It was like, oh my God, really? This is all AI generated? And for instance, in a festival in Japan, it was like one of the outstanding movies of the year, because they were like, wow, this is all made with AI. And one review was actually wondering, is there actually a real director here, or it's a machine making it? And I realized how much like people just don't understand how these tools works. But it was also fun part. But right now it changed a lot. Like right now, they are also creating lots of AI film festivals just for AI, which honestly, I find it a bit sad. Like, why should we just create a film festival just for this? I think it should merge. And now the industry in general has a bit more resistance towards AI movies, just because I think because it's more accessible, more people are trying out. You see more like the so-called slop, and they start like it's not interesting anymore. But of course, if it's an artist that has actually an artistic vision, will create a movie with AI, that can be interesting as much as like a real footage movie and so on. I just think that two things need to be merged, and of course, you need to have a direction and a vision. And
You just mentioned slop. It's super interesting because just recently the Sora kind of social media app launched. Have you played with that, or what's kind of your view on that?
So
kind of a
here
side
I actually have an interesting story for you, because so I've been contacted by OpenAI in 2024 when Sora was not released yet to the public, in order to try out the tool before they would release it. And back then, actually, they were actually not even really sure if they would have been able to release it because of computational power. We were called like alpha artists. We were around 150 artists all over the world. Most of us already had experience working with AI. Like in my case, they came to me because I already had this knowledge. In other cases, there were like content creators that were interested about technologies, or just normal director that they felt like, okay, how can we somehow gather all these people together and let them explore and see how these tools what we can actually do with these tools. And honestly, the first time I tried it, I was so disappointed because because I had my own workflows and my own way of working, and here it was mostly about prompting. And I just, at the first time, I couldn't get the result I wanted. And I was like, okay, this is really not working. And then I had to really sit down and stay there and experiment and explore, okay, what does it work? And then I create my own preset there. And there, finally, I managed to get what I wanted. Like the second movie is actually makes with a combination of Sora and also open source tools. Then Sora was released in the US in December, and then in Europe because of legislations like this year in March. And now with Sora 2, honestly, I didn't even try it because I was not so interested. But
just because it's a different way of working, or why are you not that interested?
No, it's exactly the same way. It's just like a better model. They just implemented also like with the music and so on. I feel like it's a good tool to use. Like now there are I don't want to promote Sora. There are so many out there right now. I just because I got contacted by them, and so I tried that. But there are so many tools out there now, and I also feel like this slop is not because the tools are not good. It's just because the people don't know how to use the tools. There are many incredible artists that are working with AI, doing a great job, and there are people that they just want to create this slop to create hype. But at the same time, artists always embraced sloppiness somehow. So there are already artists also, like I think about John Raffman. He was already working with AI for so many years and creating these kind of cursed images, imaginaries that are a bit sloppy and so on, and they're very interesting. So I think it's just like embrace the style and the thing, and this is also gonna be just like an hype. I feel like it's like stock. In the end, it's like most of the Sora's model are also based on stock images, and in 2015 or before, there was this post-internet era for artists. They were working a lot with stock images in an ironic way, and I feel this is what artists are gonna do with the slop. Yeah.
It's super interesting to hear, especially also the part where your workflow just is super different than the workflow for example, Sora. So every kind of workflow has their own totally specific kind of workflow, how you interact with the technology.
Yeah.
So do you think that you could get your results with different kind of workflow or project or kind of machine? Or is it just dependent on the different kind of machines?
Every machine, every tool, it's different. So even the way you prompt, if you prompt like on Stable Diffusion something, you prompt in a way, and then in Sora you prompt in another way. In Midjourney you prompt in another way. Like it's always change, and also the feelings you get. Like for instance, I can watch a video and I know already which tool the person is using. So that for me the challenge is also trying to use something without letting people understand what I'm using. For instance, Midjourney is very recognizable to me, so I can watch a video and say, okay, this is Midjourney 100%. So that's also a bit like, I think, the challenge. But every tool you use, it's different, and you have to approach it in different ways.
So it's just a different language as well.
Yeah, basically.
That's super interesting, because I thought like they're just prompting and kind of the similar kind of style of approach to how you interact with them and the results you get as well.
No, I always find different results depending on what I'm using, and there are some prompts that works better with some specific tool, and others in a way. So yeah, no, it's an interesting.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. Your main topic, the kind of non-human human kind of collaboration, where did that come from, and what do you see that kind of collaboration develop to in the future as well, or where are we right now and where is it going to develop in the future, do you think?
So it started, I think it was a bit also like of a meta narration on how I work with AI and my own machine. So I was like, if I can do it as an artist, why can't we imagine a future where actually humans and non-humans are collaborating towards, like in my case, it's always towards earthly survival, because in this sense, I'm a bit like, I feel like sometimes a bit doomed in the way things are going, especially when it comes to a climate emergency and crisis. The idea came from this book I was telling you before, from this Nova scene theory. But especially like what I like to underline in my movies is that, especially like in mainstream cinema, there is this position in which the machine, it has been displayed for years, that we are almost like afraid of the AI, but AI is not a person, and yeah, AI doesn't work by itself. As in art needs direction, in reality it's just like a tool created by specific people, and what we should fear are actually the people behind those machines, using them for non-ethical purposes, introducing biases. And then as creatives, as artists, I think it's really important that we actually build new futures based on machines of care rather than machines of despair and exploitation, because what we are going to create today could be the future of tomorrow. And that's why I feel it's important to talking about collaborations. The machine doesn't have the agency, people have the agency, so we should take agency to actually change this narrative. And I think that was the main...
How do we get to a point where AIs or those machines are not dictated by just the wealthy, kind of most important people that are just driving our whole industry or kind of society into their kind of worldview? How do we get to the kind of conscious or kind of good machines?
That's a very good point and interesting questions, because it's very difficult to actually, I as I always say, like, I don't give solutions. I just want to give some glimpse into the future. And okay, what can happen if it's very difficult to reimagine how we could build AI from like AI systems in non-exploitative ways, because there are problematics related to humans in the loop. So people that are underpaid to actually help the machine learning process that we don't talk about. There are planetary resources that have been exploited and so on. So maybe the main point is like, we should recreate like a new technology, not based on this, but how does technology looks like? What does this technology look? So this is again a speculative exercise on what could we do? And of course, like right now, I can't give you like a solution or an answer specific, because there is no solutions to that. Like, it's just like people sitting down and thinking and exploring the possibilities, which are always possibilities somehow.
How do you think we can kind of take the collaboration between non-human kind of machines and people into our own hands and develop it to a point where we feel like we have our own actions in our own hands, and we can kind of, it's kind of a collaboration on an eye level and not the machine kind of taking over throughout time because the machines, especially with AI algorithms, are kind of just growing and learning exponentially. So maybe one day, who knows, that they'll be smarter than human beings. So how do we keep that on an eye level that is actually a collaboration, not just either us using machines to get to our goal or the machines using us to get to their goal?
I think it's so I'm really I don't know why, but I'm really not convinced about the whole topic about singularity and agency. Even when they say, AI, it's growing exponentially, and now things, there is always a bit of fakeness into that, to always give a bit of let people talk about what if machines take over, because it's easier for the people in power to move the agency to an object basically and to take it out from them. But I think that I have a very controversial idea. But what I imagine and what I hope for the future is this somehow these collaborations to happen, because we don't care anymore to be somehow the last species or the best species on this planet, and somehow we give space to this other life form, let's say, that we created, that it's more synthetic. And what I try also to talk about in my movie, especially in the first one, is that maybe we are just a bridge in between. I try to move forward for this anthropocentric view, and maybe we are just a bridge between organic life and a new form of life for the future of the planet that is going to be synthetic. So this is, and it's there is no win, it's not machines taking over or people taking over. It's just this is sort of might be a sort of evolutionary step into that. I mean, when I talk about this, people look at me like, what are you? But I mean, this is, it's also speculation. Yeah, exactly. And it's, and I feel we should just stop having this really anthropocentric view. And again, machines would not take over. It's it's men that are taking over, and they already did it. I mean, there is I don't want to enter in this too political. But
that's totally fine.
But I mean, people in power positions are controlling this narrative, and there is a reason why. So I just feel don't fear the machines. Fear the people, not the machine.
That's so true. Yeah, I mean, people in power are kind of building the machines and the kind of just technology to their advantage. So it's kind of just focusing on, especially in a capitalistic society, just to build them more power and give them more money. So it's not in the interest of everyday people and society. It's just in the interest of just a few people. That's for sure.
And it's all about accelerating, producing more. And that's why I have this kind of doomish vision of the future, because I don't think we can accelerate more than this and produce more than this. People are burned out, machines are burned out right now. So I don't know,
where do we go from here then? If we're all burned out, everything's too much, we're producing too much kind of slop content, art, whatever it is, just products. Where do we go from here? How do we get slower again?
I think we need really to reach the lower part, then rise again. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is just an unfortunate moment that we are living in, but we'll get out of this. This is just a moment that it's gonna explode, and hopefully things are gonna change. I don't know how, and right now I'm just speculating too much, will it? But
that's totally fine though. I mean, it's super interesting to speculate because, I mean, nobody can look into the future. So everything we're talking about, even if it's just in an hour or two, it's just speculation. So just thinking about what the future will look like, especially with you, that you have put a lot of thought into that. That's super interesting to me, at least. So what do you hope for the human-non-human collaboration to look like in, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years? What do you hope for yourself for that collaboration to look like?
I feel it would be interesting if we could actually, I mean, of course, implementations for every aspects of the life where somehow as human we could avoid to work for or doing so. When I talk about post-scarcity society, somehow I know that's a very utopistic way, but also very naive way of looking at things, because even to reach that point, you still needs lots of human exploitation and in the process before the people that can will actually reach the level where they cannot work. There was always people that will work for something that we don't want. I feel like I really hope that somehow there could be a sort of liberation in the sense that at least some works that we don't want to do, that nobody wants to do and nobody should do. Could actually be like took over by machines. Very difficult again to imagine it because to just create these systems you need to exploit people. So my main goal, like also with my dream, it would be just like that we can live again the leisure time, see creativeness as actually not even as a job, because I don't want to see creativeness as a job. Like I want to have the time to create without having to think about anything else. And right now, I think that the most of the problems that we are getting to, it's because everything is about production. If something is not productive, then it doesn't make sense. And it's not just like, now it's not just about the people in power believing this. It's like people they just believe this. They don't understand why we need culture, why we need art or so on. But exactly because we don't leave space to this, to art and culture, we are getting in the directions where we are getting right now, also politically. And I think it's very important that we reappropriate of the leisure time, of our creativeness, that we don't just think about being productive. And then probably we can be like, we can feel fulfilled again. We can feel human again, because I really don't think that now we are humans anymore. Like people are talking about most of the time, AI is going to make us dumb or whatever. No, it's not AI making us like this. This is the life that we are living, the system in which we are living. It's unsustainable. And so I really just hope that in the future, thanks to the machines and these collaborations, we could also like have somehow more leisure time and focus on the creative processes and so on for everybody, also for people that they assume they are not creatives, because I strongly believe that everybody is creative. It's just that there are people that either didn't put the time or they don't have the chance of doing it because of many things. So
just free ourselves to be able to do what we truly want to do. That's kind of what I hear from that.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you see the future of filmmaking, especially now as we're talking about AI kind of coming into the whole field, also kind of Hollywood productions, advertising? I know that's not your kind of main focus, but what do you see the kind of industry change throughout the years or in the future?
I think, as I said before, I think they are going to implement more and more AI in effects, and wherever before you maybe needed like to work more with CGI and so on, so they will probably also waste less time on that, for sure. There's gonna be, I'm sure 100% AI is gonna be a new form of animation. So like CGI in the beginning, now it's gonna be seen as, oh no, CGI, AI is not good and so on. But then it's just gonna be another style somehow. It's going to be used for storyboards and so on.
Do you see feature films or commercials being just prompted or created with AI only?
Commercials are already created by there are some there are
just
already
on a wider spectrum.
On a wider commercial, definitely, like as before there were these sort of very, I call them stock images, but like these stock videos looking like advertisement. They will do the same but with AI, so they will somehow waste less time and money and people time in general. For movies, just specifically like for like if you want to actually have this like we have 3D movies and then you like CGI movies and then AI movies, but in actual feature films, I feel like that's always gonna be like AI is not gonna taking over that field. That's gonna be like this, and they will just implement some tools like for exactly effects and so on, but I don't see that going away, changing. Absolutely not. Even like with all this, there was a moment where people was really, like actors in general, they were really concerned about also like this deep fake. So people using their images somehow reproducing the actor act and so on. I don't think this is going to happen. There are going to be so many legislations about it. They are going to take care that this is not going to happen. I just I just hope that there will be like some new forms of actors, like these AI generated actors, like we have AI creators right now. Maybe they're going to be this new hyped actor, and then there is the AI generated movie, like a bit more mainstream about this actor. Like you have Pokemon and Pikachu, and then you have this AI I don't know. But that's for sure is going to happen. Yeah. But it's not going to take over the cinema industry, in my opinion.
Yeah. How do you think your collaboration between humans and machines vary from each other? Especially when you look at the kind of movie credits at the end, usually you have thousands of people there listed. That's kind of the collaboration between humans to create something, a movie, some kind of work. If you look at AI movies, the credits, it's 3, 4, 5 people. Do you think that makes kind of the whole work different? If there are not that many people collaborating to create something together, and it's more just 1 or 2, 3 people getting their input into that kind of one movie, does that change the way that movies are created? And does that change something for you, like just the collaboration between humans or the machine?
I think for sure it is different. I think sometimes it could also be a bit like people always see AI as a tool that can allow you to do things somehow faster, but I don't think it's like that at all. And sometimes you really need like also a human input and exchange in order to clear your mind. And most of the time you can't do that with a computer or just if you are by yourself. Like even though like I like this exchange with the machine, sometimes you just need to go to a person and ask, what do you think? And so I think in general it's easier because you don't have to direct so many people. So in that sense, it's probably also less stress in that sense. I don't know. I feel like these are just gonna be, just 2 different ways of producing movies in the end. And I think it really depends from the person you are and what you like to do. I know many people that they would never work with AI and they like this feeling of having a big crew and working with people. But I also recently met this director and artist, Kino Moya, and he comes from directing, like used to work with so many people, and then he started generating like movies and working with AI, and then he was by himself, and it was like, that's not bad, You're like, this is actually great. And then, of course, you can see that like he is a director, he has a vision, and his AI-generated movies are good, and the story he tells are good. But at the same time, he also knows that he will not stop also working and producing other type of movie with people and so on. He's not just gonna make AI movies. So I feel like it's just 2 different kinds way of working that you can implement together somehow if you want, or you decide for one or for the other.
Yeah, it gives different people a chance to kind of see what works best for them.
Yeah,
that's for sure. We kind of need to wrap it up. We're at the end of our time, and we need to come to the last 2 questions of the podcast. The first one being, do you think that the art or creative world has a problem with sexism?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I think they are working a lot. There are specific people that are working a lot to change this, and I see the effort. But especially like in my field, new media art was a field that back then was mainly male dominated. And even though now I'm really happy to see that there are so many more female or non-binary media artists, I still feel like that there is a bit of sexism in the sense that, for instance, when I started working with my collaborator on the movies, when people was seeing his name, then they would just give for granted that okay, so he did all the technical things, you are not able to work on this. And most of the time, these comments also came from people in the field, people that know how it works, and most of the time also from female collaborators. So this is what in the beginning, but in my whole career, it's something that like people ask me, so did you do it or did somebody help you? And I don't know, I didn't see this happening to my male colleagues. This is something that in the beginning made me suffer. Right now, I really don't care.
Good for you,
right
though.
now, I really feel like you can think whatever you want, and that's good. And also, like, I honestly right now also believe that there's nothing bad. Also, like, if you have a collaborations, if this person just did the technical part and I just did the creative part, I don't see what's the problem. This is not gonna undermine my work.
Yeah.
So, but I understand if some people, I mean, because I went through that, I understand that sometimes you put so much effort and work, and most of the time when you're an artist, you also work alone. And then after you did everything alone, people look at you, it's like, oh, who did it for you? That can be frustrating.
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, things are changing. And I have, this one is also interesting. I had also people in the past telling me, like, maybe if I would have won a prize or a grant or something, people would say, yeah, because now they are trying to implement this, like, putting more female there. So that's why you got that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that, like, if somebody that is listening is a woman, like, probably they also heard that. I'm pretty sure 100%.
It's such a useless,
I mean, but
to say.
Again, I don't receive these critics anymore. Maybe because these people are not around me anymore. I don't know.
That's good for you.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this can happen, of course. So I feel like things needs to change still. Like we are getting better and better, but still, like, we are quite not there.
Yeah. Last question. If money wasn't an option and you could just do whatever you wanted to do right now, what do you think you would create or do for yourself?
So I think probably I would most focus on more experimental projects, even though, I mean, of course, back then also AI movies was very experimental. I like to work with topics also related to internet culture and all these kind of things, which are, they don't get much funding. So let's get to the, so I think I would really try out whatever comes to my mind. But right now I really realize that when I work on a project, it's also because I know that project is going to get funding, and somehow this is also shaping my artistic practice in a way, because there are some topics and projects that I would like to develop and I don't leave much time for those, because I know those are not really the ones that would get funding or attention. So I think I would just like I would definitely do more project and more experimentations, and which I still should do it anyway. Yeah, I mean, I do it. It's not easier. It's not that I quit and I just do. No, absolutely. I do many different things, but I think I would do even more.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. Sophia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, this was my conversation with Sophia. I think it was super interesting just to see what she thinks about how she approaches the whole AI topic. Thank you very much to her for taking the time and speaking with me. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to give it a 5-star review, follow on Spotify and also YouTube. And at the end, as always, big thank you to Marla Kolumna for the cool cover and Belinda Thaler for the jingle. See you next week. Bye.